Have you ever felt that something has changed inside you so deeply that you can't explain it to anyone? If this has already happened, write here in the comments the word, "I woke up." Because perhaps you are one of the few who have experienced the rarest and most transformative sign of spiritual awakening. Most people think that spiritual awakening is about light, about ecstasy, about feeling connected to everything. But the truth is that true awakening is not always pretty. He is intense. He is demanding. And it tests you in ways that can't be explained to those who have never experienced it. This is a sign, a specific experience that only a few people on this path will endure. It's not because they're better. It is because they have been chosen for a deeper initiation. This is not a gift distributed at random. It's not a badge of honor you can go for. It is something that your soul accepts long before your human self is ready. And when it happens, it doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like a storm ripping apart everything you thought it was. You see, spiritual awakening is not just about gaining wisdom. It's about losing the versions of yourself that can't sustain that wisdom. And the strongest chosen ones experience it through a signal that goes beyond symptoms and synchronicities. It's a visceral, undeniable change in which you don't just awaken, you're dismantled. Today, I will not give a list of common signs of awakening. This isn't about repeating things you've heard 100 times. It is about revealing the one sign that only the strongest souls will recognize, because they have lived it. They survived and carry their scar as proof. If you're here, watching, feeling like your journey has been harder than anyone understands, that might explain why. Because not everyone will experience this sign. But those who experience it, they never go back to sleep. Let's get started. One morning, you wake up and you don't know who you are. Not in a dramatic way, like in Hollywood amnesia movies. He knows his job. He knows the facts of his life. But something, beneath the surface, disappeared. You don't feel like the person you were yesterday. Their goals seem strange. His memories seem distant. It is as if the emotional connection to your own history has been erased. And here's the most confusing part, nothing external caused it. There was no ending. There was no tragedy. There was no failure. On the outside, everything looks fine. But inside, it's like you've been erased. This is not depression. It is not dissociation. It is the spiritual reset that only the strongest chosen ones are invited to endure. That's when your soul decides to rip off all the identities you borrowed, the roles you played to survive, the personas you created to be accepted, the ambitions you inherited without question. Most awakenings happen gradually. But that signal is a collapse, sudden, silent, and relentless. You can't prepare for it. You can't negotiate with him. It arrives as an internal blackout, in which the old version of you is shut down to make room for a self you don't know yet. At this stage, motivation disappears. Familiar faces seem distant. Even your own reflection looks like that of a stranger. You're not sad. It's not numb. You are simply empty. And this emptiness is sacred. Because what is happening is a complaint from your soul. Every identity built on fear, validation, and survival is being dissolved. You are being reduced to the essence. And essence is not noisy. It is not performative. She is silent, stable, and deeply honest. Most people never experience this sign because it requires a level of surrender that the ego fears. It is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who have been chosen to embody the truth in its rawest form. If you've lived through it, if you've felt the internal collapse for no external reason, you're not broken. You are being reborn from within. There is a unique sensation that accompanies this sign. It is not a symptom. It is not a disease. It's a stillness in your nervous system that feels unnatural. For years, you've lived in fight or flight mode. His body was always on alert. But when this collapse of awakening happens, it's as if your nervous system turns off the background noise. You stop reacting as before. You stop cringing. Stop explaining yourself too much. Stop feeling the need to defend yourself. But it is not for peace. It is for a strange and silent neutrality. You feel like you're in a room where all the walls have come down. There is nothing to fight against. There is no one to hide from. There is nowhere to run. This is not dissociation. It is not detachment. It's your system entering a 0 point, a reset frequency where everything you used to feel, stress, fear, excitement, is silenced so that a new foundation can be built from scratch. You may feel tired for no reason. Your body can withstand any effort. Even breathing feels like something you do deliberately. But deep down, there is an intelligence at work, rearranging your energetic architecture to align with the truth of who you are becoming. You will also notice that your physical desires change. He doesn't want any more comfort foods. He doesn't feel like overstimulating himself. The old dopamine cycles disappear, not because you suppress them, but because they are simply no longer available to you. This is a purification of false stimuli. Your system is recalibrating how it responds to life. And while it sounds strange, it's the basis for something powerful. You're not numbing yourself. You are being prepared to feel pure signals again, sensations, emotions, intuitions, without the distortion of past wounds. This phase is not easy. But those who endure it without trying to fix it, emerge with a level of presence that cannot be faked. If you felt your nervous system go silent, you're not faulty. You are restarting. In the midst of this internal breakdown, emotions begin to behave differently. You feel waves of sensation, but without the labels of before. You cry, but you don't know why. You laugh, but you don't feel like it's happiness. You feel a lump in your throat, but it's not sadness. What is happening is that your emotional body is deconstructing your old language. For years, you've been trained to categorize your feelings: happy, sad, angry, anxious. But these labels were given by a society that needed to define it in order to control it. Now, as your soul regains its emotional field, these categories no longer serve. You start to feel emotions as pure energy, no story, no narrative, no judgment. It's raw. It's confusing. But it's also liberating. This is where most people panic. They think they are emotionally shutting down, but in fact, they are feeling for the first time beyond the mind's attempt to narrate the experience. You're not losing emotions. You're accessing them before the words distort them. During this phase, it is common to lose interest in emotional conversations. The drama becomes exhausting. The emotional manipulation becomes painfully obvious. You stop getting into conflicts, not because you're passive, but because you see that most arguments are just people trying to blame others for their own pain. You are also attracted to silence, to songs without words, to experiences that do not require emotional performance. That's because your system is detoxifying from the need to explain feelings and learning to inhabit them. If you felt emotionally confused, empty, or unable to connect with your old emotional patterns, that's not regression. It is liberation from the emotional program. You are learning to feel before words. And only the strongest chosen ones can handle this level of intensity. One of the most ironic signs of true awakening collapse is that you lose all interest in trying to be spiritual. You no longer care about being seen as someone awake. You stop seeking spiritual knowledge. You detach yourself from the need to appear enlightened. And that doesn't happen because you're regressing. It happens because his spirit has reached a depth where labels no longer matter. At this stage, you feel disillusioned with the spiritual community. You begin to see through the performative aspects of the high vibrations only culture. You create a kind of allergy to spiritual bypass. You cease to resonate with anyone who wears the awakening as an identity badge. Because right now, you're not interested in sounding spiritual. You're interested in being real. This phase is lonely. You may feel disconnected from the very community that once gave you comfort. But this is necessary, because awakening is not a costume. It is the removal of all masks, including the spiritual one. You stop posting your findings. Begin to keep your insights to yourself. He starts to desire authenticity instead of attention. And the fewer people understand you, the freer you become. This is where true humility is anchored. Not that performative humility that says, "I'm just a learner," while still seeking applause, but the deep, embodied humility that understands that awakening is not something you possess. It's something you surrender to, moment after moment, forever. If you have felt the need to move away from spiritual identity, that is not failure. It is the completion of an ego cycle. You passed the test that few recognize, the test of letting go of the need to be seen as awake. And that's where the real work begins. One of the strangest changes doesn't happen within your mind, but in the way the world responds to you. You walk into a room and people don't seem to notice you like they used to. You speak, but your words seem to float in the air without getting anywhere. It's not that people are ignoring him. It is that you have become energetically invisible to those who are not aligned with your new frequency. This is not rejection. It is energy protection. When your soul strips away old identities, it also removes the energetic hooks that once made you resonate with people's projections. You stop being a mirror for their illusions. And because of that, they can't find it energetically. You may notice that superficial conversations become impossible. That old friends no longer see him. That even in the middle of the crowd, you feel like a silent observer. But here's the truth, this invisibility is not punishment. It is protection. Your energy is being hidden as your system stabilizes. You are being kept away from frequencies that would pull you back into old patterns. This phase is lonely, but necessary, because as you lose layers, it is not to be found by those who only knew how to deal with their masks. People who truly see you will find you effortlessly, because they resonate with yourself without masks. You're not disappearing. You are becoming too real to be seen by those who still live through filters. Let it happen. This invisibility is not the end of connection. It's the beginning of the aligned connection, one that doesn't require you to cringe or pretend to be felt. Before waking up, his mind was a constant storyteller, always projecting into the future. What's going to happen? What if it goes wrong? How can I prepare? But as the internal breakdown deepens, something unexpected happens. Your mind stops building futures. You no longer fantasize about the next big thing. You stop imagining disaster scenarios. You don't project tomorrow as before. This is not because you are unmotivated. It is because your soul has anchored you so deeply in the present moment that the need for mental narratives dissolves. At first, this is disorienting. You wonder why you don't already get excited to make plans. He questions whether he has lost ambition. But in fact, what's happening is that you're moving from a projection-based life to a presence-based existence. You start to realize that the future is not something to control. It's something to find, one puff at a time. And because of that, your energy stops leaking into hypothetical timelines. You preserve your attention. It feels broader, more rooted. That's why, at this stage, you may feel like you're floating through life, but that's not aimless. It's alignment. You're no longer chasing images in your mind. It is finally responding to what is real, in real time. It takes strength to stop living in the stories of the mind, because those stories gave you comfort, even when they were stressful. Now, your soul is asking you to trust the unknown without having to script it. This is not passivity. It's mastery. You're not losing control. It is dissolving the illusion of control. And from this space, real life begins. That experience, that complete internal breakdown, is not something you choose. She chooses you. And when it arrives, it doesn't come with a warning. It comes as a silent dismantling, piece by piece, identity by identity, until all that remains is the truth. The reason why so few people talk about this sign is that it doesn't sell. It's not glamorous. It is not a feel-good moment. It's raw. It's messy. It's deeply personal. But for those who have gone through this, there is no going back. Because, after you have been emptied of all that is false, your spirit refuses to carry anything that is not yours again. You stop running. Stop chasing. Stop introducing yourself to be accepted. And in that silence, a new self begins to emerge. Not built on approval. Not defined by past wounds. But anchored in presence. That's why only the strongest chosen ones experience this sign. Because it takes an unimaginable amount of courage to face one's own inner emptiness and not run away. To sit in the absence of knowing who you are and trust that what's coming is worth the wait, and what's coming after. Clarity that doesn't need to be shouted. Peace that is not fragile. A movement that is not rushed. Love that is not staged. You don't become better. You become real. If you have felt this breakdown, this emptiness, this strange removal of who you thought you were, you are not unraveling. You are coming back to yourself. And that, dear ones, is the sign of a soul that has been chosen not only to awaken, but to embody awakening in its purest, rawest, and most human form. You don't need to be understood. It does not need to be validated. You've already been chosen, and that's enough. If this video has described what you have been experiencing in secret, subscribe, because this journey is not about knowing more. It's about becoming less, until all that's left is the truth of who you've always been. And if you've recognized every word you've heard here, then it's no coincidence that this video has gotten to you. It's not luck or chance, it's a calling. You have been chosen to ride through the storm and emerge with a presence that the world can no longer erase. Write the word "chosen" in the comments to let me know you felt that calling. And remember, your journey is not for everyone to see, it is for you to live, until all that remains is the truth of who you have always been.